it's not okay to be racist towards white people.
Okay, this is funny because when a white person claims that someone is being openly racist towards them, what they mean and what that amounts to is being called names.
You guys not remember when so much of the internet believed insane lies about me and people were being openly racist towards me for months? She blocks me and decides to go to the entire internet like a week later and says, like, I'm gonna take Allie Priestley down, like, she's actually so horrible and she's a cult leader and blah blah blah.
That is a false equivalency. Whether it's intentional or not, you are putting it into people's minds that being racist against a white person and being racist against a black person are the same thing, and they're materially not. It is not only a false equivalence, it is ahistorical. It is misleading to say the least, and it does not account for the power dynamic in our society. I think an individual can be discriminatory or prejudiced against white people, but an individual cannot be racist against white people because racism is an institution itself. And I know people will disagree with me here and say, well, that's just your definition of racism. When you're using that word racist to describe both cases of racism against white people and racism against black people, you're still using that same word. You're not actually distinguishing what is the material reality. Someone can make fun of you for being white, but they can't make you fear the cops while you're walking down the street. They can't make you fear being arrested because you're driving while white. They can't deny you a bank loan or a mortgage or a job or a salary or an education because you are white. The financial institutions in our society do not have material power to wreak economic violence on you because you're white. But they do, and they can, and they will, and they have against black people. You want to use that word that someone's being racist against you because you're white without making the disclaimer that there is a qualitative difference between racism against white people and racism against black people. I think you're being disingenuous at best. Your pedigree, your ancestors weren't victims of apartheid, segregation, Jim Crow laws, slavery. In fact, you were the beneficiary of all those things. You still benefit from those things indirectly. Racism is systemic, and it is rooted in Western European imperial capitalism, which has been the prevailing dominant political economy for the past 4 centuries. Your next point is pointless because you say that white people weren't the only ones to enslave black people.
White people are not the only people who've owned slaves.
Again, this just reveals the impotence of your whole argument. You're not pointing to a history of black people institutionally enslaving white people because it doesn't exist. The best that you can say is that Arabs in the Ottoman Empire did it too. That's not a justification for your point, now is it, that you individually are a victim of racism? You and your family have not been systematically deinstitutionalized as second-rate citizens generation after generation with all the direct and indirect effects that come with that. Your starting point in life is still leagues ahead of any black person living in the United States in 2025. No amount of name calling will ever change that for you. Calling you a name, no matter how prejudiced it might be, does not change the material reality that you live in or the qualitative differences between being black in America and being white in America. Second point, even the very idea of you equating the transatlantic slave trade to being anything comparative to what Arab slavers did is another false equivalency. There's a lot of evidence in the historical record which I'm happy to run through if you'd like, but for now it's suffice to say that nothing has been more destructive or damaging to black people as a race than the racism of white Western Europe for the past 4 centuries. White people want to be a victim so bad.
You absolutely can be racist towards white people. I've been told so many times, you can't be racist towards white people. I believed that for a little bit until I experienced it and had a true mental health crisis.
And it hurts them that people don't see their whiteness as an albatross around their neck.
I'm done hating myself for being white. Like, this is psychotic.
And so they make videos like these where they are constantly reiterating that they are the victim.
People like Aunt Karen, like, she was so openly racist towards me.
They are the victim.
This whole like white woman thing that's just so openly accepted here.
They are the victim.
But she wants to openly be so racist towards white women.
Your other point about the Civil War happening, so white people are all good now, they paid up, they freed the slaves because white families died and paid in blood to free the slaves, also doesn't suit your argument.
We also fought our own families to end slavery here. Like, at what point are we gonna talk about actual history? Because I got on this app and people convinced me that, like, what I knew about America wasn't real.
Yes, abolishing chattel slavery because it was no longer conducive to the motives of capitalist profit accumulation in the 19th century was a nice step. But that doesn't absolve 4 centuries of subjugation, and it didn't mean that racism wasn't still an inherent fabric of our society all the way up until this very day. You were forgetting the entire Jim Crow era where slavery was made legal by criminalizing black life, by making it so that black people entered the penal system and were once again unpaid slaves. You're forgetting the segregation period where they had separate second-rate citizen status compared to white people. You cannot point to anything close to an analog in white people's history as to what has happened to black people. There is no comparison. Therefore, you should not be comparing white racism with black racism, or even insinuating that they are the same. They're not.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the new page. If you want to support me making more content, consider joining my Patreon. Thanks, and have a great day.